Claude Fable 5 is out again. In case you don't want to burn a hole in your pocket this time, here's a quick guide that will help you understand how to use Claude Fable 5 properly. How to use Claude Fable 5 without going bankrupt. This is an article I came across on X and I thought of giving it a quick thought and helping you understand how you can use Claude Fable 5 judiciously. Now, Claude Fable 5 is kind of the best model available right now, and it is insanely expensive as well. It will cost you twice as much as Opus 4.8. And in this article, the author is trying to explain how it can cut down, how this article can help you basically cut down the Fable cost by 50%. Like, of course, it's not practical to run Fable 5 in loops and burning away tokens. So these are some things that we will cover in this article. Now you open Claude Code and Fable is kind of the default model and you start, chatting with it. You ask it to fix typos, you ask it to format some JSON, but that's not the main idea of Fable 5, right? Fable 5 is a model that is built for, understanding architecture, building out architectures for heavy code bases, right? So for these tasks, like when you want to fix a typo, you want to format a JSON, something like a haiku model would definitely get the job done right. You can see in the diagram that fixing a typo with Fable would almost cost you $0.6, right? Formatting JSON would cost you around $0.4, right? But if you do the same task with Haiku, that will cost you around $0.02, right? So understand the task that you're trying to do, and based on that, select a model, right? So this is something that we can keep in mind. All the grunt work that's there can be done with a cheaper model, right? Then we have 10-80-10 system, the exact framework that Anthropic engineers are currently using. First 10% should be used in planning, right? This is where Fable earns its price tag, right? The structure and approach, success criteria, constraints and edge cases, what could go wrong. These are the things that, you should be using Claude Fable 5 for. Right. So the starting 10% of the work where, extraordinary abilities like planning, thinking, all these things are required, use Fable for that. Now, when it comes to execution, Fable might not always be the best choice here. You can definitely switch to a cheaper model, which is Opus 4.8 for standard work, Haiku for lighter tasks, and Codex 5.5 for mechanical executions. This can specifically be achieved with a sub-agent architecture that you're building, like agent orchestration, wherein you have a markdown file, you have, let's say, written about code review, right? Code review should be done by, let's say Sonnet 4.6. Code writing should be done by Opus 4.8. You mention all these things and you also mention that how much effort should it be taking, right? So it should be on high efforts, medium efforts, low efforts, right? These things also matter when it comes to cost optimizations, right? Now, final part is 10% review. Now you can bring back Fable in, right? Fable is good at thinking, planning, all these things. It is also good at reviewing things. When Opus has written all the code for you, now you can bring back Fable and you can have it review the output against the original plan. Does the result match the architecture? Are there gaps or edge cases missing? Does anything need fixing before it ships, right? So it will take all these things into consideration and give you probably a markdown file or, diffs that can basically help you understand that what all changes need to be made, right? This is the 10-80-10 system that, Anthropic engineers also use. 10% is planning, 80% is execution, and 10% is basically using Fable 5 and checking the review, right? Now, if you would have done that completely with Fable, all the 100% of the task, you would have burned a lot of tokens and again filed a bankruptcy. So that's where you can definitely use the system. Now, talking about the Claude MD routing table, so you can use Claude.md to basically control everything, right? So this is a Claude MD that the author has shared that, you can use Fable 5 as orchestrator only. Use it for planning, architecture, reviewing final code, and never use it for tasks like mechanical tasks, bulk generation, boilerplate, right? And you also mentioned the effort level, the one that I was talking previously, that you can use it on low, medium, high effort. High is something that most people use it on. X high is like burning lot of tokens, and X high and max are basically too much for the task that you're trying to achieve, right? Then you have Opus 4.8 for deep reasoning executors, Sonnet 5 for mechanical work executor, Codex GPT 5.5 for peer executions, right? Haiku for bulk executor. Then you have even cheaper models also available. Like try to go with GLM Kimi models for long execution, long context executions, right? Use it for reading huge files, long horizon repo analysis. So Fable never spends token on it, right? The cost tier is very cheap, and even DeepSeek Quen, like they are dirt cheap for grunt work, right? You can do boilerplate, test writing, data cleaning, translations, all these things. So basically, so even this markdown file is helpful from an angle where you can understand what model is capable of doing what all things, right? Even if you didn't understand anything from the past that I just said, but this specific table is helpful for you to understand that next Tuesday, when you sit back to code, you will know that these are the models and these are the specific tasks they are good at. And I'll be using these models so that, I can cost optimize my things, spend less on tokens, all these things. Now we'll go with, this specific diagram tells you everything. Like it summarizes what we just said, that Fable 5 for plan and review, Opus 4.8 for deep reasoning, standard execution can be done by Sonnet, Codex, right? Haiku and Kimi can do mechanical bulk work, DeepSeek Quen, or local models, which are free tier. They can be done for grunt work, right? Escalate only when needed, de-escalate down the tier, delegate down the tier. Now, prompt Fable 5 like a tech lead. This is important where you mention the goal, that what do you want to achieve, then what all are the context files that are there, and you mention it that you give it a role that you are the lead, delegate reasoning to deep reasoner, delegate grunt work to fast worker, use Codex for fresh perspective, show me your plan first and then execute. This is a very succinct prompt that will help you understand that, how sub-agent orchestration might work, how, you define your goals, you would give a context. So this can be important, right? Now, Fable 5 plans, everything else execute, bill stays flat, right? Now, you might be wondering that, let's say if you're using Claude Code, then how do you install Codex into your platform? Then this is the way you can install Codex. Now, Codex plus Fable 5 together is 10x better than Fable alone, right? You can do some npm install, you can install it in Claude Code with a plugin, right? Create 2 subagents in Claude Code with /agents feature. I think it's deprecated. There might be a new way to get this done, right? Ask Fable 5 to write skill.md for Codex, right? It can delegate tasks. It's like a tech lead that's present, and it can delegate tasks to, multiple software engineers. Now, make it so Codex needs zero hand holding on mechanical work. Now you can see Fable 5 is the orchestrator, deep reasoning is done by 4.8, then markdown files are there, skill markdown files are there, which are fed to Codex, and mechanical work is done by Sonnet, Haiku. Now the loop command that's there, loop is very important. I talked about loop engineering in past, and it simply means that earlier what we used to do was you prompt, Fable response, you review, you reprompt and repeat. This is a traditionally old way of doing things. This is basically prompt engineering. But now how things work is that you define a goal and Fable 5 needs to achieve that goal. And how do you define that goal? By giving a /goal command. You define the task and end state of it. You structure it that, goal, task until measurable end state is achieved. Without these constraints, you have to, get this done. Like goal is refactor the auth module until all 47 test cases pass without touching the payment service or database schema, right? So Claude has that in mind that this is my specific goal and I need to achieve this, right? Then the structure of a loop would be like loop your prompt and you give it some intervals like 30 minutes and expires in 8 hours. For example, like /loop runs security checks on all API endpoints, interval 24 hours and expires in 7 days. Now, this is traditionally different from loop engineering. Loop engineering is when you define a specific goal and AI tries to achieve that. However, this is like creating a loop which runs automatically at scheduled intervals and it ends at a specific time, right? There are a couple of prompts as well that you can try in Fable right now. I'll just briefly go through it, that find what is actually worth running on Fable 5, that, you are Fable 5 most capable model, you look through my project docs and memory, list down the top 5 genuine, list the top 5 tasks genuinely worth running on you, rank with a one line reasoning for each, do not do the work yet. So that way you'll be able to understand that what all tasks can be done with Fable 5. Redesign how you build before you build anything, right? Plan the big project, do not build it yet, right? You can do some planning and review that I mentioned previously, right? So these are a lot of things that are available. I'll definitely share this article with you and you'll be able to understand. This is a diagrammatic representation for all the 7 things that you can do with Claude. Now you find Fable worthy work, redesign your workflow, plan the big project, find everything that was wrong, rebuild your Claude.md file, take business advice, security sweep on loop, right? Effort levels are something that I was talking previously as well, and I want to help you understand that how you can use these effort levels to even cut down further on the cost that's occurring on your bill, right? Now, what is there is that most people default to max or X high, right? This is wrong. Here is actually what happens at each level. So low is basically for fast, cheap, surprisingly capable for simple tasks, right? Medium is the sweet spot. High used for hard debugging, multi-file refactors, architectural decisions, and reasoning power. So X high and max are like token furnace. You often produce worse outputs than I, reserved for genuinely hardest problems that you have ever faced. So that's when you can use X high or max, right? You should always start with medium, move to high only if quality is actually falling short, or never default it to max, right? So this is the thing, right? The 4 expensive mistakes that people do while prompting AI is that, don't use Fable 5 as a default model. Always have spending cap. Like one person complained that they had been billed $960 on a single prompt. You can go to settings, usage, and adjust the limit accordingly. Um, Asking AI to explain its reasoning often becomes a bigger headache. Like it starts giving a lot of answers, and that way it can fill up the context window very fast. So avoid doing that. Drip feeding it in tiny prompts. So what happens is that people prompt AI word by word and smaller sentences. You should What you should try to do is that you should give it everything at once, so that AI computes all those things and then gives a structured output to you, right? Now the model comparison is right in front of you. How much Fable 5 is costing, how much Opus 4.8 is costing, and you have uh, the table as well showing you that in which area which model shines, right? So yes, that was all about this video. I just wanted to share how you can use Fable 5 properly. I hope you liked it, and thank you for watching.